All right, our first guest tonight is a BYU Hall of Fame receiver and a BYUtv Football Analyst who will be with us on our game day lineup this fall, before and after the games. Austin Collie on the Wise Guys. We recorded with him just a few minutes ago because he's got football practice tonight, and he asked us from his car if we could get that done. So here's a few minutes with one of the greatest receivers ever to suit up at BYU, and we went at him with all our questions. Here's Austin Collie. Austin, what we love is that you are in your car, and so now Cougar Nation from around the world is also in your car with you. So thanks for you got football practice tonight. We're glad to have a couple minutes with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing? I had to keep everything kind of from the chest up because the cars are a mess right now. I haven't cleaned it in a while.
You have kids, so everybody that has ever had kids knows that your car's just going to be a mess. That's just part of the deal.
Listen, it's I try to tell them, every single day when they're in this thing to clean it out and grab their stuff. Never happens, not once.
Yeah, that seems to be right.
That's exactly how it goes.
Hey, we just finished the second weekend of the NFL preseason. What's it like for a player going through that, fighting to keep a job?
It's stressful, for sure, right? Like I always tell people, that the probably the most stressful time was preseason and practice. The game was nothing, right, compared to the pressure that you were dealing with during practice, during the preseason, fall camp, or not fall camp, but training camp. It was you're always having to perform. You're always being judged, always being critiqued and evaluated. And when you got to the game, everything just seemed a little bit easier because everyone else was concerned about just the outcome of the game rather than just all eyes on you, right? So it's stressful for sure, especially if you find yourself kind of on that fence. Every day you're just kind of waiting, making sure no one from the front office is kind of lingering around, staying out of their way, right? Making sure you don't make eye contact with anybody from the front office, and just kind of keeping your head down.
That's good advice. Never make eye contact with anyone from the front office.
Stay on the move. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there's one kid after they cut down to the 53. Great, I forget his name, but great safety out of Cal, was on the team the year prior. We come in that Monday after the 53 cuts. I think it's a Labor Day, right after that Labor Day weekend, thinking everybody's good. He's at the breakfast table with us. One of the front office guys comes up, taps him on the shoulder. Next thing I know, he's got a massive, one of those hefty black sacks with his locker cleaned out, heading to his car, right? And that was after we were already supposed to be whittled down to the 53, right? So, I mean, the pressure's always on, man. You're always having to perform at all times.
There's 23 Cougars that are on right now in the mix. There's a multiple that we know are not at risk at all, right? Like names like Kyle Van Noy, Taysom Hill, Jamal Williams, Michael Davis, Fred Warner, Blake Freeland, Brady Christensen, Kairos Tonga, Puka Nacua. They're all under contract. They're all established. They're really not at risk, those guys. But other than those guys, in your mind, who has the best chance of these 23 guys, minus the ones that are certain, to make a team this year?
I would say my guy on the Browns, right?
Aiden Robbins?
Aiden Robbins, right? Like, I think his size translates really well. I don't think he got a really good shake or a really good look at BYU. Just given and BYU always seems to have these running backs, man, that are drafted or taken as a free agent that end up. First person to come to mind is Tyler Algier, right? Like, what an impact, what a difference he's made on the Falcons. And so to me, I think his size, I was always blown away at his size and his ability to catch the football. And I just don't think we got a good look just because he was dealing with injuries, dealing with nagging things going on. And I really like his chances. Yeah,
I didn't even mention Tyler Algier. He's another kind of lock. Yeah. When you have 1,000 yards as a rookie and you're productive your next season, he's a lock there as well, right? And so, I mean,
if you have the ability to extend a run play by 3 yards from the point of contact, and a large part of that is due to just how strong your lower half is. What your how much you weigh, your ability to get that forward lean when running the football, right? Like being able to break tackles. Like, I mean, that size I don't care who you are. Not a lot of guys are just loving putting themselves in front of a guy that's running full speed at that size, right? So I think running backs in the league are a little bit different than college, right? You're looking for guys that you're looking for a type of running back that fits Aiden's kind of profile for those third and short distances, goal line distances, right? Those guys that are able to take a 2-yard run and turn it into a 4, right? Because every yard in the NFL matters.
What do you think will happen with Zach Wilson in Denver and Jaren Hall in Minnesota?
I'm hoping it works out for the both of them, right? Like, especially Zach. I know he's been kind of through the ringer from the looks of it, right? I mean, he's got some competition ahead of him, and I mean, everything I'm hearing out of the Denver camp, he's playing really well. He looks like he's kind of back to the old Zach. I don't like the minimum amount of reps he got just yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how great of a sign that is, but the I hope that he gets his chance, because obviously I'm a big Zach Wilson fan. I know what he's capable of. I know he could be a unique talent in the NFL if he's just given, put in the right situation, coming in with the right mindset. I think Jaren Hall as well. Like, I think Jaren, from the clips that I saw from the Vikings game, did a pretty dang good job of just kind of controlling the offense, controlling the drive or drives, I should say. And he looked a lot more comfortable. That's the one thing that you'll notice, especially at the quarterback position. The comfort level that he's going to have from year 1 to year 2 being under the same system, man, is just going to be he'll be night and day better than what he was last year. So, I mean, if he was slotted as the number 2 or 3 guy last year, I'm sure nothing's going to change.
Sounds good. It's interesting with Zach, because when you look at the financials, the Broncos acquired him in a trade, and the Jets have to pay almost all of his salary. He seems like he's the cheapest backup in the league, if nothing else, right? So sometimes finances, they come into play. You're part of that. It's a big business, and sometimes the financials are on your side, and sometimes they're not. It seems like they would be on Zach's side, right?
Yeah, and you want to know what? The limited snaps that he had yesterday could be, a result of that, right? Like, let's get him limited snaps. We know that he's solidified on the roster just because of how much we got to pay him, the investment we've made, and how much that the cap space he takes up. So that very, very well could be. You're exactly right.
It feels right that the Jets are still paying him.
Yeah,
I don't mind that the Jets have to keep.
That's the penance.
Listen, in my mind, they ought to pay him more. Right?
Yeah,
like what they did to that kid.
Yeah.
The fact that he's still in the mindset of wanting to play, still having a love for the game, man. I mean, the stuff that Zach had to go through and the situation that he was thrown in, I mean, just time and time again, I don't know a lot of guys that come back from that. And it just shows the resilience that he does have, right? And all those naysayers that said from the very beginning, like, how is he going to handle trials? How is he going to, demand a locker room? How is he going to earn the respect of the guys? Just because of how, maybe innocent he comes off, or the vibe that he kind of puts out. I think he's earned the respect of every single player across the league, because everyone knows how difficult the position is. And then to be able to have to perform in the situation that he was thrown into, like, you can't help but just have a tremendous amount of respect for a guy like that.
Former Patriots and Colts receiver and BYUtv football analyst Austin Collie's on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus. Let's switch over to the college game, which you cover so well with us, our colleague, and on all the shows that we do. If the game's tomorrow, who's your quarterback for BYU? You going with Gary Bohannon? You going with Jake Retzlaff? And why?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been out to see a bunch of camp practices, right? I haven't been down to fall camp much. But I just think, just off of sheer, I'm a big believer in being in the system and what that does for a quarterback. And Jake's been in the system. We've seen him out on the field. He's been able to kind of, like I said with Zach, he's been able to kind of get a different feel for what their expectation is of him. He's not thrown into the fire just right away. He knows what the expectations are coming into the season. He's been in the system. He's getting much more attention probably from Aaron and from the other offensive coaches. I know he's been working hard this whole offseason, right? I've been part of that. So, I would have to go with Jake, but that's me saying that, and I haven't really seen Gary, right? Yeah. But I just know how hard it is, man, to come into a system not having thrown or developed any sort of timing or relationship with the receivers, and then on top of that, having to learn a new system that's just so hard. Like, you can only expect a quarterback to do so much, which is why, like, I'm not a huge fan of picking up somebody in the transfer portal. Like, I'm especially at the quarterback position, right? Like, that's years and years in the making of developing that relationship with their wide receivers. You want to eventually have your quarterback be able to play only thinking about, what's currently going on in front of them and not having to second guess what a play is or where someone's going to be, which receiver to go to, what the read is, et cetera. So, like I said, I think Jake, I'd probably give the nod to Jake just based off of how I seen Jake throw the ball and now what his comfort is with everybody.
You had the pleasure of catching passes from Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. These two guys aren't those two guys. But what one leadership skill did you see in Tom and Peyton that you would want to see in Gary and Jake? Give us one.
Yeah, holding everybody to a sense of accountability, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that was missing. I mean, I played with I was very blessed to play with the quarterbacks that I had, right? Like, one guy that you didn't name that comes to mind is Max, right? I know a lot of people talk about Max and just the fire he has, right? I think a lot of these kids in this generation are very concerned with their peers, what their peers think of them, not hurting anybody's feelings. Like, off the field, that's all fantastic, right? Great guys. I mean, I'll tell you right now, the BYU guys hanging around him, man, just what great young men, right? Like, phenomenal young men that you would, literally, let babysit your kids for a week. I mean, these guys are just great dudes, man. I would say that all needs to be left at the door, however, when you when you get to the stadium, right? Like, Max, fiery. You asked David Nixon, you asked Brian Keel, when it was practice time or when we were lacing those things up, how much he liked me or Max or Dennis or Harvey. They didn't like us, and we didn't like them, right? And part of the reason is because, we had a little bit of swagger to us. We had a little bit of fire to us. Everything mattered. We wanted to win. No matter who we were going against, we wanted to win. And if we weren't meeting the standards that we had set, we would make sure everybody knew, right? And we'd hold everybody accountable. And we didn't care if people didn't like us. We didn't care, and this was on the field. Obviously, off the field, everything was kosher. We'd hang out all together. But that's kind of the attitude that you have to have as a quarterback, right? Like, you have to be able to hold people accountable and not really care more about the team than how people perceive you and, how good of terms you're on, right? Because there are going to be some naysayers on the team. There's going to be guys that don't want to fall in line. There's going to be guys that are going to be, behind their backs, going to be like, well, who does this kid think he is? He just showed up here last year, right? I've been here all 4 years, or I've been a captain on the team for 3 years. Well, that doesn't cut it, right? Like, you have to hold everybody accountable. It's your team. You have to own the team and hold everybody to that standard, and that's exactly what, like, Tom and Peyton would do, right? Obviously, their pedigree kind of speaks for itself and makes it a little bit easier, but it's part of the reason why I don't like the transfer portal either, right? Like, it's hard to get a quarterback to come in and feel like he actually owns the team. It's his squad. It's his huddle. But, that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
You have to hold your team members accountable, and you have to get fiery on the sidelines, man. You got it. You may have to get in a couple guys' face and tell them to freaking, raise their level a little bit more, and that's what it takes.
You and I talked during the season a bunch last year as we were analyzing games about play calling and, what could Aaron do to help these quarterbacks out. So regardless of who that is, there's this balance between you got to get the quarterback feeling like he has a rhythm to start a game, and they've put this huge emphasis on the run game all spring long. In the early part of fall, they really focused on being able to run the football. So now you're Aaron Roderick. You're coming to this Southern Illinois game. What do you do in the first series or two? Do you go out and say, we're going to show you all the work we did, we're going to run the ball down your throat to start the game? Or do you go, you know what, I got to get these quarterbacks ready to go for down the road. We're going to come out firing and get these guys a rhythm. Like, what do you do in that first game?
I would say balance is key, right? Like, let's figure out what we're really good at. Everybody looks good during the off season, right? Like, no one's hardly ever going full go anymore. You don't really get a good idea of how guys are going to actually perform the game. Some perform great in practice. Some are practice heroes. They get out there, they look like they're the real deal, and then you get them out in their game situation with high pressure situations, going up against a defense that maybe they don't or haven't gotten used to. over the course of the 4 weeks or the entire offseason that they've been going up against the defense. And so, I would say, start off balanced approach. Let's find out exactly what what we're made of, what we're good at, identify some weaknesses, especially, playing a team like them who we're supposed to be, I'm going to venture to say we're supposed to take them on, and give it to them pretty handedly. So what a great opportunity to really kind of diagnose what things you need to now really harp on and continue to work on as the season goes on to help prepare you for the Big 12. So, just a balanced run, offensive game plan.
I'm kind of disappointed. I thought you were going to say back up and chuck it deep.
Well, if this
let's just unleash.
If this was Max coming back and Austin and Dennis and Harvey, Austin would say that because they're already established. He's like, no, just forget about it. Let's just throw it every down. That's what they would do.
I mean, the wide receiver in me says yes, but the OC of my 12U football team says let's come out balanced and let's figure out where we're needing work.
Yeah, listen to him. BYUtv Football Analyst Austin Collie on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. During his 37 games at BYU, racked up 3,255 receiving yards and 30 touchdowns in just 3 seasons. Couple more questions for you, Austin, because we know you have practice here in just a couple minutes. Keanu Hill moves from receiver to tight end. In what ways could he be fantastic at that position? How big of a risk is it to move a receiver to that position?
Well, I think what they're expecting at Keanu is not that big of a risk, right? It's just a bigger body inside the number 3 position or number 2 position, depending on what the set is. And now he's working, hopefully against the backer. And if not, they bring in that nickel corner. Now our run game opens up a little bit more, right? Because they don't have that much, they're down a man in the box. So I definitely think teams have to strategize a little bit better, just because now you're putting that you get a tight end in there that maybe not. He's a little bit more stiff. He's a little bit more heavy up top. Can't run routes real well. Then you feel good about your matchup with your linebacker, right? But you get somebody in there that's got that wide receiver skill set like Keanu does. It kind of causes fits for the defensive game plan, right? Like. And it only helps out the run, I believe. I mean, I don't see Keanu having any problems with linebackers in this league. I think his ability to catch the ball on uncontested throws, his ability to get open as a receiver, over the course of the last few years is only going to benefit him, and is going to just it's going to be a nightmare for linebackers. So I only see them having to go kind of like that nickel set. Which we should be able to take advantage of from the run game perspective.
You've worked with a bunch of these wide receivers on BYU's squad, working out with them in the offseason. You know this group really well. We keep hearing, hey, this is one of the deepest groups, very talented, very deep group, wide receiver, maybe one of the strengths of the team. Early in camp, when I was down, I saw a lot of drop balls, which I know would drive you. When you mentioned you're working with Norm Chow would have been out of his mind in the first couple of days of practice because you know how he used to say the difficult catches are a routine, the impossible ones just take a little more practice. He would have been flat out of his mind. But in the last week or so, that's changed. Guys are making plays and starting to catch everything. So it seems like they're getting a rhythm with these 2 quarterbacks. Is there one of those guys that you expect to really step up, because you know these guys, and be the alpha dog of that group and to be the star wide receiver?
I think Chase, right? Like Chase is there's something different in Chase this year than there was last year. I do believe I can just see it. I can see it in the way he's approaching everything. I could see it in just his demeanor. He's a little bit different mentally than he was last year going into the season. I still feel like last year he may have, still have the kind of that maybe underclassman mentality. Maybe afraid to speak up, maybe afraid to say something. Even though he was, one of the team leaders and I believe one of the team captains, right? Like he still kind of had that reservation about him, and I don't see that this year. Right, I see very confident in his skill set, what he's able to do. He's improved a ton at the top of his routes. Not to toot my own horn, but some we worked on, for the last few months. But I think he's going to have a major impact this year, and I think he's going to light the league on fire. To be honest with you.
Let's finish up with this one because we'll see you on our game day set a week from Saturday, 4 o'clock Mountain Time, ahead of the Southern Illinois game. And we're looking forward to another season hanging out with you and the guys, including Isaiah Kafusi, who'll join us in a few minutes. What do you expect to see in that opener on the 31st? Once they kick it off, what do you expect after these last 9 months of trying to get ready for it?
I hope a lot of, some improvement from last year. Dave, like I hope we see, just a little. I think the defense is going to be a lot more comfortable with where they're at, given that it's going to be year 2 under Jay Hill. And obviously with confidence and with comfort comes a little bit more swagger, a little bit more excitement. Guys flying around, trying to make everyone trying to make the play for themselves. And then offensively, I'm hoping to see, like I said, I'm hoping to see us excel in the run. I think the run game is going to be a lot better. I think there's been massive improvements up front in terms of just guys knowing what their job is, what their blocking assignments are up front. I think that got that dialed down. I think that's going to be massive, both on the run game and to the pass game. I definitely think we're going to see a team with a little bit more swagger, right? Like guys have been around a little bit longer. The transfers that we had last year were in key positions. This is going to be their second year. I'm hoping we're going to see some improvement, Dave. That's all I can give you.
That sounds good. Improvement to me sounds like 45 points.
Swagger and confidence translates to playing faster.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking. Yeah. You got that swagger. You're just playing faster. And if BYU plays faster, you go back and rewind last season. Couple of games get away early because the guys are hesitant or doing the wrong thing. That's the difference between winning 5 games and winning 7 or 8 games is that confidence and swagger. And so that's what Austin's talking about. He wants to see that.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit more of a spark. I think there's definitely going to be a little bit more of a spark. However you want to phrase that, there's going to be definitely more of a spark, more confidence, more. They know what the expectation is. Last year, coming into a new league, you hadn't played against these teams before. You didn't know what the level of competition was going to look like. This year they do, right? And that gives you a little bit more of a sense of surety that, you can hang, right? Like we can compete. We can make plays in this, in this league. And, that only will show itself through speed, just like you said, and a little bit more of a spark. That's the only word that keeps coming to my mind.
All right, well, go spark the little guys out there practice.
Ready to go.
Go easy on them. It's like 89 degrees outside.
Is this Ute Conference, Austin? Is this the Ute Conference?
This is Ute Conference, and we got it done on the ground this last game. Probably had about 300 plus yards on the ground.
So you guys, are you in like Landon took his Lehigh team up into that league, so they just moved into the league this year. They played on a field that had half of a baseball infield on it, and it rained like crazy, and it was like a bunch of red mud everywhere. It was terrible.
Yeah, a little Oakland, old Oakland Raider.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're playing at home this week. They hope it's a better environment. But maybe you guys will face them later in the year. Same age group, I think.
I think we do.
Cool.
Are they Bantam? Are they the oldest group?
They're 12, so that's the same as yours, isn't it? Yep.
It's my second oldest.
Yep, there you go. Play against the second.
Hey, we'll see you soon. Thanks for the time.
Have fun, Austin.
All right, gents.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.